Okay, sounds good. Thank you everyone for coming to my presentation. My presentation is going to be on the topic of consciousness and the future of humanity and AI. So in the current world, in 2024, we are building AI models without really thinking about what is consciousness? What is truly an intelligent and something that is aware of things? And we have these large language models that are basically just looking through text. They don't have any understanding of the real world, so they can have real awareness of it. So just wanted to bring awareness to this topic, and yeah, so basically that would be my presentation. So the first thing that I always like to start with is why. Why do we need a better understanding of consciousness? So the first thing is there's more than 25 theories of consciousness, and no one really knows what consciousness is. And so today I want to just bring awareness to this problem that before we try to build sentient or intelligent or conscious beings or whatever, right? We need to have a better understanding of what consciousness is. So yeah, so I want to bring awareness to there's a lot of consciousness consciousness theories. And the second thing is, in the philosophy of mind, there's this thing called the hard problem of consciousness, which asks the question, how do physical processes in the brain give rise to subjective experience? It's a question that philosophers have been asking for millennia. This is a question we still don't know anything about. And another thing is consciousness across species. Things animals and fishes and animals like dolphins and primates, they have some level of awareness. For example, when dolphins and some primates see themselves in the mirror, they have an awareness that, oh, that's me. They start doing cool stuff and And the next thing is the advancement of AI. If we are building these sentient or conscious beings, we can't just go in and just start building them without having a better understanding of what consciousness is. So when and how could AI systems become conscious? And the last thing is mental health. Our entire basically mental model or our mental existence is very unknown. We don't really have a good understanding of how our brain works, and we start prescribing these SSRIs and different kind of drugs to people without having a real understanding of how the brain works and how consciousness arises. So yeah, these are some of the reasons why I think we need a better understanding of consciousness. So these are some of the definitions I pulled from Merriam-Webster website. And throughout this presentation, you're going to be a bit confused about awareness, consciousness, self-consciousness, self-awareness. And that's the thing that I'm trying to get at. That we don't really know where the line begins and where it ends. So yeah, that's basically going to be my main point about consciousness and why we need a better understanding. So the definition of awareness, according to Merriam-Webster, is the quality or state of being aware, knowledge and understanding that something is happening or exists. Now we have self-awareness, an awareness of one's own personality or individuality. Consciousness, the quality or state of being aware or especially of something within oneself. And then you have self-consciousness, conscious of one's own acts or states as belonging to or originating in oneself, aware of oneself as an individual. These two are very similar. And when I try to look up for more definitions from different websites, this is always the case. There's no line between any of them. So that's one problem. To me, the way I see it is, you can't have consciousness without awareness, and within consciousness you have different levels of awareness. It's like awareness of your environment, and then you have awareness of yourself, and then you have awareness of your thoughts and different levels. So that's like a better kind of mental model for it. In the next few slides, I'm gonna explain and present the main three theories currently that are proposed by neuroscience and also quantum physics, which is only like one of them, the third one. So the first one is called integrated information theory. The core idea is around consciousness corresponds to the capacity of system to integrate information. Basically, it says that like consciousness is about how much information you can integrate within a system. And it uses a measure called phi. So basically, the higher phi number you have, the higher the level of your consciousness. And the founder is Giulio Tononi. The next one is global workspace theory. This idea is around consciousness, saying that consciousness arises from the broadcasting of information across a global workspace in the brain, making this information accessible to various cognitive processes such as memory, attention, and decision making. Basically, it compares consciousness to a theater stage where information is broadcast to an audience of unconscious processors. Only information that gains access to this global workspace becomes part of the conscious awareness. So basically, let's say you have a theater and you present some information and some data. If only part of that theater, some of the people get that information and understand it, they are part of the conscious awareness of that greater or global consciousness. And the founders for this are Bernard Bars, and it was further developed by Stanislas Dehaene. I probably really messed that name, but yeah, and others. And the third one is orchestrated objective reduction. I think you guys probably remember part of this from the quantum biology lectures. And yeah, it basically is around the idea that quantum processes within the brain's microtubules orchestrate conscious experience through a form of quantum wave function collapse. So it's around this idea that like once a conscious being looks at something that has like a very low level of consciousness, which is mostly like biological processes, it collapses the wave function, which is in physics about like the moment we observe something, the wave function collapses. And yeah, it basically combines principles from quantum physics and neuroscience to explain consciousness. Founders of this are Roger Penrose, a mathematician and physicist, and Stuart Hameroff, which is an anesthesiologist. Now I'm going to compare these three regarding different things, mainly alignment with modern neuroscience and involvement of quantum physics. So these two theories are supported by modern neuroscience, but the third one is not, like we are still, like it's very new, so they're still like trying to get the empirical support for it. But the first two they don't have any involvement of quantum physics. And yeah, so what I'm trying to get at is there are multiple, these are three like major ones right now that we have regarding consciousness. These are the top three theories we have around consciousness. And only one of them uses quantum physics, which is like the physical world at its like most fundamental level. And we have two and that one doesn't have any neuroscience, like not any, but like just very low level of like empirical support and evidence. So right now, it's very, consciousness is very unknown for us. And if we try to build better and conscious beings or sentient beings, it's kind of dangerous to think about that like we are trying to like work on things that could be like conscious, right? So like, yeah, just an overall comparison of the three theories. And then the next thing is panpsychism, which is the philosophical idea around that everything in the universe possesses some form of consciousness or experience, no matter how small or simple. So even the quantum level particles, they have some level of consciousness. Basically, it's a bigger circle that or core lies within, and it goes beyond or core and proposes that everything in the universe has some level of consciousness. And if or core is correct, it implies that like there is some scientific mechanism that could support panpsychism by explaining how basic particles might combine their tiny conscious experience into complex consciousness observed in humans and animals. Basically, we have all, like every conscious being has some level of like consciousness, and then when they combine, when they become part of one, that level of consciousness combines and basically it rises their consciousness level. Now, I want to ask a question. What do you guys think of, like in this course we learned about 4 different paths to technological singularity, right? We have AI-based singularity, which is through AI, biotechnology-based singularity, which is based on through like genetic modification, cybernetics, and biomedical technology. We have quantum-based singularity, which quantum computers like become so advanced that they can solve any problem within like seconds. And then the last one is with brain-computer interfaces, where we have like things like Neuralink, that things that are connected to our brain through some platform or connection or interaction, and help us think better, see better, and things like that. Question: which one do you think is needs a better understanding of consciousness for us to improve and get to technological singularity with any of these? Which one do you think needs consciousness?
Brain-computer interfaces.
Mm-hmm. Any other?
I would say maybe quantum-based.
Mm-hmm. Any other? Okay, that was a trick question. In my opinion, all 4. In my opinion, it's all 4 because for us to build AI models, we need some level of the problem is currently we don't have much understanding. It's all theory. There's no true fact-based science. Like for all of these, for AI-based singularity, biotechnology-based singularity, quantum-based singularity, what if panpsychism is true? If that's the case, then when we have quantum computers and when they can have access to quantum level processes, they could basically become conscious, right? So that's this one, and then brain-computer interfaces. If we don't know how the brain works, how can we attach computers to it to make it better, right? So all 4 need a better understanding of consciousness. So yeah, some food for thought, some questions to think about. Should AI have rights and responsibilities? When? If they possess awareness, do their values align with ours? Like when we try to build conscious and aware AI models, how do we know that they want the same thing as us? How do we know they're not gonna start enslaving us in a way, right? So there's a lot of questions around that. And will they collaborate and cooperate, or will they compete with us? How should we handle decision making between humans and AI? If there's a point where AIs are so much better than us at decision making, what happens with when it comes to humans making decisions, right? So a lot of questions around that. And then the second thing that I personally think about a lot is like, I feel like the main way that I see currently like us getting closer to technological singularity is through quantum computers combining with reinforcement learning. Basically, reinforcement learning is when the computer like keeps repeating the same task or the same thing. It's given a goal and then it tries to like accomplish that goal. And I'm thinking that like if we were to combine quantum computers with reinforcement learning, it might be when we basically have like technological singularity. That's just my like theory and hypothesis. But questions around that are, could combining reinforcement learning with quantum computers lead to sentient or conscious AI? What safeguards are necessary to prevent misuse of quantum enhanced AI systems? How might quantum reinforcement learning change the landscape of AI capabilities? So yeah, basically a lot of questions to think about. Yeah, basically the most important thing in my opinion is that we need a better understanding of consciousness to be able to build better AI models. One thing that like recently came out is that big companies like OpenAI, like and what is it called? Basically Microsoft, all the AI companies are trying to move on from like large language models and transformers, because now we are realizing that like past the threshold, they're not really becoming smarter. They're just repeating just like a slightly different sequence of numbers. And like the way the large language models work is like they just predict the next word for like they just give you the next word and then they just combine the whole thing and then just give you what it just predicts based on the historical data it has. But that's not conscious. It's just like a prediction machine, right? So in order to make like really intelligent and aware AI models, they need a better understanding of the physical world, and they need to be able to see what's going on in the physical world. Like, for example, a cat has a better understanding of the physical world than a current like LLM. So there's some like food for thought and things to think about. And yeah, I'm gonna end this presentation with a quote. The future of humanity will be determined not by technology, but by the consciousness that wields it. Thank you very much. And questions?
So can you be too conscious? You were talking about being able to quantitate it, and so that suggests you could have a very, very high degree. And so if you think of like your hearing, if your hearing were so sensitive that you couldn't sleep ever because the slightest sound sounds, enormous and is distracting, right? So can there be something like hyper consciousness too much, or can there never be too much?
That's a great question. I feel like there's so for like when it comes to like consciousness and awareness, I feel like as you go higher, you for example, when you mentioned hearing, once you go past a level, you'll be able to like distinguish between different levels, and you will have more control over, like, for example, like what frequency of like waves or like sounds you want to listen to, right? So when I think about like consciousness and awareness is, for example, like for you guys right now, you're like aware of like this room and you're like paying attention to me, but you can also like be distracted and be in your thoughts and think about your thoughts and be like you can also like focus on your breathing at the same time that you're basically paying attention to me. I think when it comes to like consciousness, as you go higher in terms of like the level of consciousness, you'll have more control over like your focus and your attention. So for example, like for us, like for humans, like we have a certain level of like attention control is that like, and like we, like after a few minutes, depending on like your like psychology, for example, for me, I have ADHD, so like it's very easy for me to get distracted. But for people who like meditate a lot, they can focus for like hours, right? So it's, when it comes to like higher levels of consciousness, they'll have more level of control. And that's the thing with AI, right? So for example, if you have an AI model that can just move its attention to a specific topic and just like try to like ask questions and then find the next answer and just connect all the dots. But for us, we have very limited level of like attention and awareness. The smallest thing can distract us. For example, like a few weeks ago when we had that robot dog in the room, it was so easy to get distracted by it and just like lose train of my thought and just like pay attention to the prop, right? So things like that, like we are human, we are not perfect, right? But AI models can like in a way be perfect, right? Because they don't need to, they don't have desires also. Like they could, maybe they will, in a way, if they're conscious, they will have desires. But like, it's scary to think about that, like, for us, we don't have much, like we can train our attention to be better and better, but there's, I feel like, a certain level of threshold we can like meet. And also like, for example, like if you can be focused in the present moment for the entire time, you still have very limited memory, limited knowledge that like you know it, but whether it's true or not. But for an AI, like first of all, infinite memory, infinite attention, infinite like resources,
Right.
and it doesn't sleep. It doesn't. So like if we become like if we have AI models that become aware or sentient or conscious, we need to be either in the same page or like we might be in danger. So that's the thing. I feel like, yeah, that's why I truly think it's a like big thing to think about for everyone.
So does panpsychism mean that everything is really already conscious and we just can't detect it? So there is no threshold of something becoming conscious. It's just a matter of like we don't recognize that it's conscious, but it already is.
So basically it's saying that, but the thing is, what it means is at the basic level, let's say like the most basic level of like particles, like quantum particles, right? They have very basic level of awareness or like consciousness in a way, but they don't have much control over what they do. They have this like rule that they have to follow, and they just keep doing that. But the thing that is this is a question that like is like basically making everyone in modern science think about like what is reality, what's consciousness, and like all these things. The moment we observe something at the molecular level, or like for example the double slit experiments, the moment we observe them, like it just like becomes reality. Otherwise it's just a wave. Otherwise it's just, we don't know where, like for example where that particle, where that thing exists.
So we're sort of naturally human chauvinists, right? We're inclined to think that humans are better and humans should be favored and so on.
Exactly.
But now, when people are planning like $100 billion data centers because of the huge electricity needs, right? And you realize that data center will still have things it can't do, which the human brain can do, which is only running on 25 watts, right? And that's not the frontal cortex that's 25 watts. Most of it's like the limbic system and your basic urges. It's not even conscious, right? So the conscious thought of the human brain maybe takes 10 watts or something. So for the moment, that's something we can be very proud of. Nobody understands it, right? How are we able to do such fantastic computing with our frontal cortex when, you know, machines take this huge amount of electrical energy? But also it seems like that's something that will be easily solved at some point, because it seems stupid, this difference, you know? We can do it with 10 watts, why should it take, you know, $100 billion?
And yeah, that's a great point that you brought up. Like, for example, like the current AI models, they're not like really AI, they're prediction machines. And so the thing is, they use so much electricity and like processing power that they're like closely becoming the main factor for like global like heat, because of the heat that's like it's literally becoming a problem for climate change too. So before we start like destroying the earth, we should think about what we are building and what we are doing with these models, right? So yeah, these are like a lot of basically things that I like always think about as a computer scientist, trying to think about like, how can we have a better understanding of consciousness.
Right. So other questions?
Do you think with the increase in, maybe not the increase in consciousness, but the ability of AI to have some form of consciousness, there'll be an issue with intrusive thoughts? Because as humans, we have intrusive thoughts, whether they're positive or negative. And as humans, I would like to think a majority of people know not to act on those negative, specifically negative intrusive thoughts. Do you think that there's a bit of concern with AI not knowing to act on those intrusive thoughts?
That's a great
If that kind
question.
of makes sense?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I like that question a lot.
Yeah, like the inner critic that many people have, that it's bad mouthing them the whole day. And it would be bad if AI could hear the inner critic and think maybe that's truth, you know? Maybe that's by definition truth of the way the real world is. What the inner critic's telling you all day, that you're nothing, you can't possibly do this and stuff. Yeah, and I don't have that. I don't know why, but you know, it's just, I don't have something like that.
I think when it comes to intrusive thoughts, I'm hoping if AI become conscious, this all depends like how it happens and when it happens and who basically is like the people who gets it there. I'm hoping with all the knowledge that AI will have, it will also be wise. And if it's wise, it will like, it will know the balance between different between different things at different times, and it will know what to do at each moment. And the thing is, when it comes to like intrusive thoughts, like as a human, you need to have control and you need to have understanding, right? That like this is something wrong. Like that, like you need to have morals in a way, right? So I'm hoping if AI becomes conscious, it will have morals and it will have like, because it has so much knowledge and understanding, it could be very like much wiser than humans. And yeah, I'm hoping, I have a lot of hope in that way, that like because it has access to so much knowledge and understanding, that it will be wise. And like I feel like we humans are more prone to like do bad things because we are just creatures that like want power or just want we don't really think about what we want. We just go after our urges, right? And that's very wrong. But AI, like in a way, here's the biggest problem with AI will be who builds it and who has control over it. I'm hoping if AI is like, the thing is right now Microsoft is trying, like Meta is doing a great job, Meta is doing a great job open sourcing their models. and that's the way in a way, so that no one has control over like the AI models, but companies like OpenAI and although it was like meant to be like a non-profit, it just is becoming more like a profit company, and they have like control over their models, right? So if, for example, someone, the CEO or like the board of OpenAI, if they want to do bad things, let's say they have conscious and aware like models, they could do bad things. I don't think AI itself will be like evil, because it will have so much like information about things, and it like, if the way I see it is like, if some like being or something was above, like knew more than humans, it will like literally see beyond our like the things that we like go after, and like the illusions of our like desires in a way, right? So like yeah, I think like I'm hoping AI will be wiser than us.
So tell me, from the computer science perspective, is there a new secret Manhattan project where the US government is secretly building this super powerful AI and is going to get to AGI ahead of other entities? There's only one video saying that, and the video also has clips from Max Tegmark saying the whole thing is a fraud, it's not real. So you can't determine whether it's real from that one video. And that's the sole evidence. But there must be in computer science, like I talk about the oral tradition, there must be rumors that are not written down yet, right? So have you heard of this new Manhattan?
I don't think so. I haven't heard anything about it, but I talked to one of the people who you brought here and presented to us, for one like a person from computer science department, and I asked him about like quantum computers and where we are with them,
right?
And he said only governments work on quantum computers, or like mostly, like like 90% of them,
right?
And they only do it to break cryptography,
right,
and to basically decrypt communication of other governments.
Right.
So that's very like dangerous, and like to think about that, the fact that we are using it in the most like.
Yeah, but Demis Hassabis yesterday, there's a video where he's saying, from an AI perspective, I mean, now that he's won a Nobel Prize, he can make big statements, right? So he's saying we'll never need quantum computers. They're so impractical anyway, you know, it's hard to set them up and run them because of the temperature restraints. That AI can do it all. AI will be able to do all these things that we're sort of counting on quantum computers to do. So do you think that is also true, that like breaking, you know, will the same features that national governments are now using quantum computers for, will AI eventually be able to do all those things without going quantum?
I'm not sure, but I don't think so. I feel like, so there's a thing in computer science, there's a problem called PNNP problem, where you have these set of problems that are called the problems in P and the problems in NP. And they're two different sets of problems that the P can be solved in polynomial time, which is like in a short amount of time.
Right.
And then the NP is the problems that can be solved in our lifetime. For example, breaking like someone's password. Like
right.
if you use some level of cryptography, it's not easy.
In the history of this course, you can see some of this. But there was a computer scientist of color who took the course, and we were discussing whether systemic racism can be successfully countered by AI. And he talked about this as an NP hard problem that can't be solved. And what did I know, so I'm arguing back and forth with him and so on. But I don't think that was a good moment for him. I should have been more sensitive about it, I think. But yeah, so how rigid is that classification of P problems versus NP problems? Is it clear which things?
So that's the problem. That's like the P and NP problem. The thing is, it's actually $1 million question. Like
Right.
if you solve that problem, you get $1 million. It's like 1 out of 10. No, like seriously.
Yeah.
It's a question that we haven't found the proof or the answer to, and no one knows. Yeah.
Yeah. So I still think it was probably unfair for me to be asking him about whether AI could solve systemic racism. Are there other questions?
Do you think that AI will become so conscious that it's not? And like what I mean by that is, you know, I don't know if this is just me, and maybe this is just me, but sometimes when I drive home from school, I don't think about where I'm driving, if that makes sense. And I sometimes get to my final destination and I'm left with thinking, how did I get here? Or I don't remember going onto the white mud, but somehow I did and now I'm home. And I'm obviously driving, but I'm not consciously thinking about my actions. Do you think that AI will become so conscious that it'll have moments of almost unconsciousness?
The part that you're talking about is the subconscious part of the brain, where like when you become like a master, or when you become like used to something, like especially driving. Like if you've driven more than a year, you just like drive on autopilot. So the thing is with AI, that's a great question. I feel like that's a great question for computer scientists to think about. The fact that we humans have conscious and subconscious, right? Maybe we need to integrate that into like AI models that we are building, right? So the subconscious part is where like the things that it becomes like sure of or it becomes great at, it just adds to the subconscious and then uses that as like proof. Maybe that's like a good mental model for an AI to have, right? Like, or like a structure. So like, that's a great question. The thing is, I feel like AI won't have subconscious in a way. It will just be its memory and its like understanding. I guess the understanding of the world, the things that it knows for a fact that are true, it will probably just keep as like its subconscious, but it won't be like, that's a great question. Would AI be subconscious? I'm not really sure, but yeah, there are like, that's another question to think about in terms of like, would AI be better than us, right? So like, in terms of like being more efficient with the things it does, right? So for example, like when I drive home, like it's a subconsciously like same thing with you, like it saves you time and you go into this like your own thoughts and you think about something else, and it's a very efficient thing to do. You're driving and you're thinking about something else. Like for me, there are a few things that I can do that. Like I'm very like I'm mostly in my conscious state of being most of the time. Like I can't multitask at all. Like driving is probably like one of the only things I can do because I've been driving for so long. But yeah, that's a great question.
So if we live in a simulated world, and if AI becomes conscious, won't it sort of give away the fact that we live in a simulated world? Because it seems to me that's a secret you could keep from humans, but somehow you get other consciousnesses looking at our world. They would say, well, obviously, haven't you noticed there are these things that, like, you know, why is this thing so low res, whereas you would expect, you know, the resolution to be infinite it's so far away and that it looks like it's sort of drawn in or something, right? So there would be some clue that you're, so what do you think we do live in a simulated world, or that if machines become truly conscious that we'll finally know whether we do or not?
That's a great question. I don't know if we live in a simulated world, because in a way we wouldn't know. Because like if someone like
If
created
the game is good enough.
if the game is good enough,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
there will be like set limitations on our end to not be able to see that other basically layer, right? So I feel like we wouldn't know. But when it comes to like conscious like conscious AI compared to conscious humans, right? Like even as humans, we can also like, for example, things you said like driving and things that we do as like subconsciously. Like when I look back at my childhood, like I lived most of my life in this like automatic mode. Like I was like literally living like a robot. I just like followed whatever I was told and like in a way just followed in line, right? But I feel like the thing that makes us human is the moment we start like just being ourselves and not caring about like what the society tells us, what our parents tell us, and like truly think about like what we want. And like authenticity, I think, is the thing. And I feel like there will be authentic AI models too if they're conscious, but if they're not, then we will know. We will see, like, notice, like even like when you generate an image through an AI, like you see like either the hands or something. There's like always a detail that tells you this is AI generated. I feel like the thing that will tell us about like something being conscious is something that in a way like makes you notice that like we are not like living in like a simulated world, or like it's hard to think about. I think authenticity is the thing. Something that like shows that this person is unique or this thing is unique, right? So yeah, I'm also like very like person like that always talks about like being yourself, because like it's so easy to just fall in line and just be like everyone else and be normal in a way, and just like don't do this, don't do that because like your parents told you this or your friends told you this. But like think about it, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And if something like you want to do, like if there's something that you like, for example, if you want to make art for the sake of making art, just make art. It doesn't have to be like something that like, oh, I need to get paid for this, or like I need to like do something for society. Like I guess, yeah, it's like complicated, but yeah, I think authenticity is the answer to that.
So how does authenticity then relate to things like whether there are aliens living among us, UFOs, the occult, ghosts, you know? So you can imagine in those things I've just mentioned, there probably are some real things, we just don't know what, right? So, and we don't know in which sector. Real things in the aliens, real things in the UFOs, real things in ghosts. You know?
Mm-hmm. I feel like, for example, when things like when it comes to like UFOs and stuff, like whether they exist or not, like a majority of the population haven't seen it, and it hasn't affected our lives. Until it starts affecting our lives, then like it's good to think about it. Like when it comes to like extraterrestrial or aliens, it's like they either exist or they don't. There's like two options, right? Both options are scary to think about.
Right.
First of all, if they exist, are they more like conscious and more like advanced than us?
Right.
And if they don't exist, we are the only conscious or natural conscious beings in the universe.
Makes us feel very vulnerable. Right? Nobody else made it. How did we make it? Yeah.
Or in a way, it makes us special too, right? So like, why are we here? You know, what made us?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's probably if we went